Hello and welcome to Verdict 2017. I'm Ashwarya Kapoor with you. In the next 30 minutes, I'll be getting you all the news and updates from the states that are going to polls this year. We'll also be getting you special stories being sent by reporters who are traveling length and breadth of these states to give you a perspective on the issues that really matter to the voters there. All the details to follow. Let us start with the headlines. State set for fourth phase of polling in Uttar Pradesh, 53 constituencies across 12 districts to vote on Thursday. Political parties in Manipur meet Election Commission, urge it to ensure free and fair elections in the state to be held early next month. We focus today on the fading paper industry in Kalpi in Uttar Pradesh, where government neglect and influx of Chinese paper is virtually drawing the curtains on the once thriving industry in the state. And in Manipur, we go to the little town of More on the Myanmar border, where lack of infrastructure has hit the business hub. Well, the state is set for the fourth phase of polling in Uttar Pradesh that will be held on Thursday. Well, 53 constituencies in 12 districts, particularly in the Bundelkhand region, will go to polls tomorrow. Well, Raebareli, Allahabad, Jhansi, Chitrakoot, Fatehpur and Pratapgarh are some of the prominent constituencies here. A total of 630 candidates, including 50 women, are in the fray in this phase of elections. Well, in Congress President Sonia Gandhi's constituency, Raebareli, party leaders Akhilesh Singh's daughter Aditi Singh will be contesting. In the 2012 polls, out of the 53 seats in this phase, Samajwadi Party had won 24, BJP 5, BSP 15, Congress 6 and others 3. Well, on the last day of campaigning, Allahabad was the major centre where BJP President Amit Shah, SP Congress Alliance leaders Akhilesh Yadav and Rahul Gandhi and BJP ally Apna Dal President Anupriya Patel conducted road shows and also addressed public meetings. Well, the Election Commission is all set to conduct free and fair polls in Uttar Pradesh in the fourth phase on 23rd of February. While speaking to Rajya Sabha TV, UP Chief Electoral Officer T. Venkatesh said that appropriate action would be taken against all poll illegalities. He also exuded confidence that the fourth phase will witness a record voter turnout.
So our preparedness is, we have been preparing for these phases from August in purification of our electoral roll, and now actual phases with regard to the actual preparedness for the poll. One is making all the arrangements, whether it's stationery, the seals, the ink, the first level checking of the electronic voting machines, checking of the VVPATs wherever they are put. In addition, deployment of polling personnel and using computerization and a software so that it is confidential and totally objective. Second is, at the same time, a huge drive of preventive action in terms of arms deposition, catching of illegal arms factory, every day raiding and getting illicit liquor. So all these preventive measures to ensure that on the day 23rd we are prepared for a free, fair and peaceful polling.
Right, sir. In the previous phases, we saw instances of paid news, instances of use of muscle power, money power. How do you plan to avert that now in the fourth phase?
I'll just tell you, for paid news, we have committees at the state level and at the district level, and we have been taking effective action. I would give you a detail what are the actions we have taken at district level and also at the state level.
So how do you plan to motivate the voters to get an impressive voter turnout?
Fortunately for us, in the first three phases, results have been very positive, and both in rural and urban areas, we have got good results. Except a few in the western part, Lucknow has got first class. For the first time since independence, it has crossed 60%. So that's a positive sign, and the way percentages are, we are doing well, and definitely we'll keep this in mind for our next four phases. We will improve our voter awareness measures, try to focus also on the urban areas.
Tell us about the facilities for differently abled voters.
Yeah, I would just say, when we started off in August, out of our 14.12 crore voters, we focused as per the Commission's directives on PWDs, Divyang voters. We got the details from the welfare department and ultimately tagged and made a list of 7.91 lakh voters, tagged them exactly which address, which polling station, and we also at the same time sensitized our district administrators to give them facilities, to make a cluster approach, to facilitate them.
Tell us about the security measures in the vulnerable and sensitive pockets.
See, I would say, without giving the details of the forces, huge deployment of central paramilitary forces, supplemented by our state forces, then also web streaming, supplemented further by micro observers, static magistrates, and video cameras in use of digital cameras. All this to make it more transparent.
And Kriti Mishra also spoke to the ADG Law and Order, Daljit Singh, to know more about the security arrangements in place for Phase 4 polling. Let's take a listen.
Ample amount of security forces have been deployed, both from paramilitary side as well as from the civil side. For areas have been divided into sectors and zones and super zones, circles and bigger circles. So I guess this phase 4, as the earlier phases have gone, this phase will also go very peaceful. 8 critical places have been identified, and because these are identified because of various reasons, because of its remoteness, because these are shadow areas where the communication is less, and maybe perhaps because they had some history also. Otherwise, largely the area is very peaceful.
And campaigning for Phase 5 of the elections in Uttar Pradesh will continue today. Well, Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav has a string of rallies scheduled for the day. He will address 4 rallies in Bahraich, 2 in Shravasti and 1 in Gonda. Well, the Congress's Ghulam Nabi Azad will address the 2 rallies in Bahraich. Remember, voting for the 52 assembly constituencies in the 5th phase will be held on 27th of February. All right, my colleague Kriti Mishra is now joining us from Allahabad. We also we have with us Ravindra joining us from Jhansi. Let's go across to Kriti first. Kriti, now the high decibel campaigning for the 4th phase of polling is now over. And, you know, for all the phases that we have seen so far in Uttar Pradesh, well, this seems to be the most, the one that has saw the most shrill campaigning, a host of leaders indulging in personal attacks there. But speaking about people in Allahabad, what are their key issues and concerns?
Well, Aishwarya, Allahabad has been the genesis of India's freedom movement. It has been the city of India's first political family, the Nehrus. It was the fiefdom of the Congress, but of course BJP could also manage to prove its dominance, and then it has emerged as Samajwadi Party's stronghold. But even in the 2012 assembly elections, the Samajwadi Party had won 8 seats out of 12 constituencies. The Bahujan Samaj Party could win 3 seats, and the Congress could retain only 1 seat. However, in 2014 Lok Sabha elections, it was the BJP, it won both the parliamentary seats, and it's just not about winning the seats. The margin of the victory was absolutely mammoth. And also, eyeing the polls, the BJP had also organized a national executive in this very city. Remember, Aishwarya, this city, which has Allahabad University, it was known as the Oxford of the East. It was known as the factory of Indian administrative officers. It had plethora of industries. But over the period of time, there has been a complete decadence. There has been large exodus of people looking out for jobs to bigger cities. So definitely people are looking for a change, and they're looking for somebody who could articulate their changing aspirations. Aishwarya?
Absolutely. Kriti, you stay with us. Meanwhile, Bundelkhand region is also going to polls tomorrow. My colleague Ravindra Singh Shoran is now joining us from Jhansi. Ravindra, now for decades really Bundelkhand has this dubious distinction of being the most backward region of Uttar Pradesh. Yet this is really baffling at the ground level. The caste factor still plays a very big role.
Yeah, that's true. Aishwarya, you are right. The caste equations are quite important in this area. The Bundelkhand region, especially all the 7 districts of Bundelkhand, they have more than 30% of the scheduled caste voters in this area. But the most important thing we should remember is that this area has never been true loyalists to any political front. They keep changing their leaders in different elections. So no political party can take them for granted, and no political party can boast of this being any stronghold of any particular political front. And I think this is the only reason this is the beauty of the democratic setup of this country and this area especially, that politicians are somehow taking a little bit care of this area. Otherwise, this is one of the most backward region. This region can only be compared with the area of Odisha, the districts of Kalahandi, Koraput and Bolangir. This is equally in poor shape. Also, the most important issues which the people they keep urging to the politician to address are education and employment. The young generation has seen more than 32 lakh people has shifted their base from this place to different parts of the country and different part of UP, only to earn some livelihood for their family.
Under these circumstances,
also, mining,
Ravindra, how
also taking toll of the economy.
Yeah, how potent really is the issue of statehood for this region now? Because you know, the BJP really has not explicitly stated its support for it. The Samajwadi Party is also opposed to it. So how potent is that issue? With how much does it find resonance among the voters there?
That's a very important issue, and this strike an emotional chord with the people of this area, especially the Uttar Pradesh part of Bundelkhand. They have been struggling to get a new state, but some of the political parties, especially as you have mentioned, Samajwadi Party is opposed to this idea of a small state. But the Congress Party, the BJP and BSP, they are supporting the cause of Bundelkhand region. But the manifestos which has been released by all these political fronts, this issue of Bundelkhand being the separate state is not highlighting in the manifesto, but in the political addresses, they are addressing, the politicians who are addressing big rallies here, on the rallies they are keep raising alarms about this issue, that this is an important issue, and the voters here, they keep joking that the politicians who are delivering speeches to the mammoth crowd here, they never forget to bring humor and puns and generous smattering to only to attack the political opponents, but never try to solve the issue of the people who are facing, especially this Bundelkhand separate state. And this is the reason that this area is so backward even after 7 decades of the independence India got. Even at the time of the first freedom struggle of India, 1857, this was one of the most important area. Jhansi Ki Rani, she struggled for the independence of the country, and still,
historically,
even after
this
getting
has
so much
been
of glory in the past, this part of the country is still struggling. Even for the elementary issues have not been settled so far. The people are still facing huge crisis of water. Sadak is not properly built here, and
historically it has been a very important area, and yet their lack of basic amenities there. Of course, Bundelkhand region will also be among the regions that will be polling tomorrow. Thank you so much, Kriti and Ravindra, for all those updates from there. And Kalpi in Jalan district was once known for its paper industry. Well, the industries are now shutting, and those who are employed in it are finding other means of survival. Now, Ravindra Singh Sharan has brought us this report.
The paper industry in Kalpi is on the verge of shutdown because of erratic electricity supply and lack of government support. Many paper manufacturing units have shut down, while many are staring at closure. Those associated with the industry believe that government involvement can revive it.
सरकार अगर हम लोग की सहायता करे, जो हम लोग ये भूखों मर रहे हैं ना, ये सब हम लोग के लिए अच्छा हो जाएगा. कालपी में कोई काम नहीं है. ये जो कागज का काम है, ये भी बेकार है, चलता नहीं है. हम लोगों की तनख्वाहें नहीं है ज्यादा. लेबर इधर जो है बहुत ज्यादा परेशान है.
Over 100 paper factories were functional in Kalpi till a few years ago. The demand for handmade paper from Kalpi outnumbers its production. Now the demand has slipped, and with it, the fortunes of those working in this industry too.
नोटबंदी बंद हुई बेटा, जब से कारोबार नहीं चल रहा, दिन भर गिट्टा तुम 60-70 का काम करके अपने घर ही जाता था. मजबूरी ना हो तो बुढ़ापे में जो काय का गिट्टा है आए के.
Paper carry bags made in Kalpi have a huge demand abroad. The irony, however, is that cities in the country are flooded with Chinese paper. Ravindra Singh Shoran's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
On to some other news now. Well, according to the information provided by the Punjab Election Commission, the overall seizure of drugs after the announcement of Model Code of Conduct for the 2017 Punjab elections was the lowest as compared to 2012 and 2014 polls. However, the seizure of drugs during the preparatory phase of elections was much higher. Well, Punjab recorded a total seizure of cash, liquor, drugs and other items worth about 127 crore rupees. Among the seizure, the Election Commission also appointed surveillance teams. They also seized cash to the tune of 56.66 crore rupees during the 2017 Assembly polls, which is higher than 2012 Assembly polls and the 2014 Lok Sabha polls. Meanwhile, the number of arms and weapons seized this year was higher at 298 as compared to 93 during the 2014 Lok Sabha polls and 84 during the 2012 Assembly elections. Well, the elections to 117 Assembly constituencies in Punjab were held in one go on 4th of February and their results will be out on 11th of March. And in Verdict 2017, we'll take a very short break. Up next, we have all the news and special reports from Manipur. Stay with us.
Currency Building, Kolkata. A 178-year-old structure, built in 1833 in the Italianate style with Venetian windows, ornate cast iron gates and railings. The central hall of this building gets light through the sunlight overtoppings in the large domes. This beautiful building was originally the Agra Bank, and then it became the Office of Issue and Exchange of Government Paper Currency. It later housed the Reserve Bank of India until 1937. Today, the building is protected by the Archaeological Survey of India.
Thanks for staying with us. Well, political parties of Manipur on Tuesday met the full bench of the Election Commission, urging it to ensure free and fair elections in the state, which will be held in 2 phases early next month. Now, while the ruling Congress, his party, requested more forces in the Naga areas of the hills for people to cast their votes without fear, the opposition BJP expressed satisfaction with the preparations of polls and asked the Commission to conduct the elections in a free and fair manner. The Trinamool Congress, which is contesting on 24 seats, accused the Congress party of letting loose a reign of terror. It also charged a section of police officers for working partially. Meanwhile, in an effort to end the crippling 3-month-long blockade in the state of Manipur, now Chief Minister Okram Ibobi Singh on Tuesday said that he was ready for tripartite talks with the United Naga Council. The decision to create 7 new districts in the state by bifurcating the existing ones was not discussed with the UNC. However, Ibobi Singh said that the group had not responded to the invitation for talks with the government so far. While refuting Home Minister Rajnath Singh's charge that the blockade is a political conspiracy by the Congress to divert attention from its failures, Ibobi Singh in turn accused the BJP of having an understanding with the UNC. Rajnath Singh had also accused the Congress of not utilizing the forces provided by the centre, to which the Chief Minister said that the state cannot blindly fire at civilians sitting on a highway to lift the blockade, and that it is the centre that really needs to take steps. Our correspondent Akhilesh Suman spoke exclusively with the General Secretary of the United Naga Council, Miran Shimre, who said that the 3-month-long Manipur blockade has been declared to protect and defend their ancestral homeland. Let's take a look.
You have declared blockade of these areas for last 2 months. What are the issues?
The issue is that the United Naga Council is here in order to protect and defend our ancestral homeland. In many previous years and previous problems, as and when the government of Manipur intends to upgrade some districts, the Naga people agitated against it, that without consulting the Naga people, no district should be created.
This is the reason why the present imposition of economic blockade, including banning the construction of Trans-Asian Railways and national progress projects in Naga areas is going on.
So what are you not allowing to come in this area, and what are you allowing?
It is an economic blockade. Therefore, we block all the commercial goods carrying vehicles entering into Naga areas without the permission of the Naga people.
But Naga people are also suffering because of that.
Yes, the Naga people ought to suffer for its ancestral homeland. We ought to suffer. We have to defend our ancestral homeland.
But sir, this is the election time, and at the election time you have organized a blockade. So how will it impact?
Now, election is something that will come every after 5 years. But ancestral homeland, once gone, it will be gone. Therefore, we don't prioritize electoral politics. We are to defend and protect our homeland.
In the middle of an economic blockade in the state of Manipur, now some Manipur villages are struggling to cope up with the government's decision to add 7 more districts in the state. While the move puts at risk some Naga villages that find themselves suddenly surrounded by adversarial Kuki villages. Now with their security at stake, now villagers fear that they might not be able to vote. Well, added to this is a general lack of infrastructure that is forcing the people of the villages here to migrate to nearby towns. Akhilesh Suman brings us the special report.
The Thangal Surung village of Kangpokpi district in Manipur is the traditional seat of the Thangal tribe. A tourist complex was planned here to showcase their historical legacy, but it was abandoned midway mainly due to violence unleashed by the aggressive Kuki tribe. Although they live barely 30 kilometers from the state capital Imphal, area residents live under a shadow of fear, especially during elections when violence and booth capturing increases.
So we want to practice this franchise, but we cannot do. There is the main problems. Either it is Congress or BJP, because the major community, they just come and insist us, and they will stop us and they'll cast it on our behalf, on their choice.
It has happened last year?
Yes. In every election, not only last year. It has been going on since time.
Thangal leaders allege that neighboring tribesmen come here to collect a ransom tax from their villages. They have repeatedly sought a police post here, but the Ibobi Singh government are yet to implement the proposal.
हम इस बस्ती में थोड़ा लॉ एंड ऑर्डर को थोड़ा स्ट्रिक्ट रखना चाहता है, ताकि हम आराम से ना काट के जी सके, हमारा मन की बात बता सके, और हम चलने फिरने में हमको कोई प्रॉब्लम ना पड़े.
The village school here burnt down in the 1993 Naga-Kuki conflict. Since then, it remains unrepaired. The primary health center also comes into action only when the polio drop drive is taken up. Even the approach road to the village was made by the community with no help from the government.
सड़क प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना बनी है?
नहीं, ये बस्ती हम लोग गांव वाला इसे बनाता है, कोई वो सरकार का फैसिलिटी नहीं है.
आपने कैसे बनाया?
मतलब हम लोग का ये अपना घर है, गांव है, बस्ती का अंदर का रोड बनाना ही पड़ता है. कोई
सरकार ने नहीं,
सरकार का कोई फैसिलिटी नहीं मिलता है.
आप जानते हैं PMGSY?
हाँ.
तो आप लोगों ने कभी मांग नहीं किया?
मांगा, उसके ऊपर में बहुत कुछ मांगा, कुछ नहीं मिला हम लोगों को.
Doctor never come to this health center. Sometimes nurse came and they give polio to the children. Except that time the nurse came, but doctor never came.
How many days they didn't come?
The whole years they didn't come. Only the time when they were going to give polio, that time only the nurse came.
In an attempt to escape the threat to their lives, many villagers have left the area. Of the original 90 families, only 28 remain today. Over the years, their fears have only multiplied. For earlier, they were in the Naga-dominated Senapati district. Now they come under the Kangpokpi district that is dominated by rival tribes. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And turning our focus to a little town called Moreh at the Manipur-Myanmar border. Well, despite being a business hub, bad infrastructure and lack of provision of basic amenities have left many families wrecked. And what is worse, now insurgents have been successfully attracting the jobless youth here. We bring you RSTV's ground report.
Dry, dusty and dirty. That's Moreh for you, a little town that connects India to Myanmar. Once a thriving business town, it's now known among officials and criminals as a smuggler's haven. The name Moreh literally means I'm tired in Burmese, and that's the sense you get from each and everyone who we speak to regarding the election and their hopes from the government.
People in Moreh, we are living under tremendous hardship because of lack of infrastructure. We have no proper internet connectivity, we have no proper water supply, then as usual our roads are not good.
While Meiteis make up for the main part of the population, Kukis and Mizos too have a significant presence in Moreh. Despite that, no political party has tried to tap into the concerns of the people. Traders who've remained in the area since the business boom nearly 4 decades back claim their demands to develop the area as a modern city have fallen on deaf ears, irrespective of which government comes to power.
We are in border town, and just a kilometer ahead is Tamu town of Burma, and there are proper roads, and the administration is very fine to look at in the surface. So we would like something to happen in this side of India, which we can be proud of.
अभी पैसा के प्रॉब्लम दूसरा प्रॉब्लम नहीं.
पैसा का प्रॉब्लम है. पैसा का क्या प्रॉब्लम?
और बच्चा का स्कूल के प्रॉब्लम.
काम का प्रॉब्लम?
काम का माजो नहीं आया अभी. दूसरा प्रॉब्लम नहीं.
Just 10 kilometers away on the Myanmar side is Tamu, far more developed and better equipped than Moreh. It is the gateway of Myanmar and ASEAN to India and the approach road of the India-Myanmar trilateral highway, which is why the border gates are rarely closed. But this has added to more reasons why Moreh remains a sore point in Manipur's security affairs. From bomb blasts to extortions, the villages around Moreh remain vulnerable to militant groups, and retaliations by security forces mean more trouble for the locals.
IM group claim that Hill district is a part of their sovereign land. So the people settled out here doesn't believe that. So they want every stakeholder should be put into confidence before signing any agreement with the government of India. That's what the people of Moreh want.
Being a border area under the Naga-dominated Chandel district, one big concern is also the Naga peace deal between the centre and the NSC and IM. Residents claim the last thing they need is a change in administration and perhaps further neglect by a totally different regime. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
That's all that we could pack in this half an hour of Verdict 2017. Thanks for watching.